Hello, Anthony.
Hello, Claudine.
Here at IRSMedic, we find that when people are thinking about contacting us, sometimes they get a little nervous. So if someone's going to contact IRSMedic, it means they have a tax problem.
Mm-hmm.
Tax problems can be scary.
That's right.
People think that if they do contact us with questions, it might make them look guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we find that people sort of want to bury their head in the sand and hope the tax problem goes away. We know that's not true. So what we decided to do is come up with some frequently asked questions and sort of put it out there to ease people's minds and maybe, move them in the right direction to solving their tax problem forever. So let's start with if someone contacts us or has a consultation, even if they simply make a phone call to us, is the conversation subject to the attorney-client privilege?
Yes. IRSMedic is a law firm of Parent and Parent LLP, and it is subject to that any communications you have with anyone who works at the firm is subject to the attorney-client privilege.
Awesome. If they do contact us, are any telephone calls recorded?
No.
Good to know. Now, when somebody decides to have a consultation with us, we ask that they upload documents that we may need to look at to decide where the case should go, quote them a fee. So when they do upload those documents, how secure is the system that they upload the documents to?
Email is a great way to communicate with people, and it's a great way to send information back and forth, but it's not the most secure way. There are some holes in it, and things can be intercepted. So when we have something that has taxpayer information on it, some sensitive stuff, we really strongly encourage people to use our secure document exchange site. And it works a little bit different than sending things in email. And I think people are now getting used to this. This is sort of how most businesses that value security are now doing it. And really what it is that the connection between our system and your system is encrypted. Okay, and you really can't get in there. And it's encrypted to the maximum extent allowable by law. Okay. Most people don't know that the law doesn't allow you to encrypt things too far. But really the encryption level isn't the weak point. The weak point is usually at one end when somebody has access to your laptop. So it is the most secure way to send things back and forth. And the thing is that the secure document exchange isn't on the internet. So somebody really needs to, one security feature we have is that you can't, the address is something you're really not going to guess. You have to know the address. So the fact that you really can't know this even exists is one of the best ways to enhance security.
So very secure.
Absolutely.
To say the least. And we do use email for day-to-day communication.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so what happens to someone's information if they decide not to sign with us?
It's basically shredded. It's virtually shredded where we can't get it back, and we'll never get it back. So that's the end of it.
Got it. So what if someone would like a ballpark fee before they schedule the consultation?
This is really one of the most common questions our intake staff is asked. And I understand. I mean, who doesn't? We want to know the price before we do something. The thing is, we really can't post, online prices because it's a huge variance. Because tax problems, there's a huge variance. So if I told you the fee, if I gave you a fee range for full representation somewhere between $7,500 and $450,000, right? That doesn't really help you out too much.
It's a mighty big ballpark,
right? And the person who's paying $450,000 kind of knew that was coming, and wasn't surprised, and actually, thought that was, they thought that was a very good deal. What I could tell you is that our fees are going to be more than what you would get at one of these tax resolution outfits. Okay, it's going to be more than somebody who dabbles in tax law. It's going to be less than big law. Okay, it will be less than them, and it also will be less than Big Four accounting. So that's sort of where we are.
And I think it's important to know that we will give you an actual fee after your we get all the information and get the consultation.
So you'll get better than a ballpark afterwards.
Yes.
But before that, we really can't tell you too much because we don't want to build your expectation that it's going to be something, but you'll have the choice to accept or reject prior to be on the hook.
Exactly. Now, how do you figure out what fees are going to be, and why would they be so high or so low?
Yeah, some people, it has happened. Some people are surprised by our fees being so low. And those are usually the people who've priced out first with big law, big accounting, come to us. They're saying, wow, that's a fantastic bargain. And I think it is. Our fees are based on what we know it's going to take from start to finish. Okay. And that, in our experience, from over 10 years of doing this, of what it actually takes. And we also warranty and guarantee our work. So that includes that, getting someone close, but not quite there, is a lot easier than going all the way and warranting it, especially when you're having an IRS that isn't necessarily following its own rules.
Yes. For us, it's important to take care of the tax problem forever. And we also say that we have a flat fee, so we're not going to create additional work to get more hours.
That's right.
Okay. Can someone just hire a CPA or do this by themselves?
You can do whatever you want to do. And right now, though, something's probably telling you that maybe a CPA or doing it yourself isn't the greatest idea. And really, a lot of our attorney clients who are thinking about doing it themselves. And so you're considering. And I would say this is the thing that if there's a common thread among our clients who hire us, is they really look at the IRS as this mortal threat, that this is a serious problem to their financial security. And they want someone who's an actual legal advocate to go all the way, who can go toe to toe. So they're not going for second best. They're going for the best legal advocate they can get, an actual lawyer. So that's those are really the right people for us. The people who say this is really, really serious. And I understand that a lot of people don't, when the first time you're confronted with a tax problem, you might not realize how serious it is because you think you have a few assumptions. You assume the IRS will be reasonable. You assume the IRS will follow its own rules. You assume no one's going to give you bad advice. And you assume there's some sort of level of fairness in the world. And there's none of that is true.
Especially with the IRS.
And I think you have to make your own fairness.
Yep. Now let's talk a little bit more about CPAs. What happens if someone needs tax preparation for original or amended returns, and what happens if those returns are really complicated?
You know what? This is, I think, the biggest advantage for someone hiring IRSMedic parent and parent. We do everything in-house. We have our own accounting, our own CPA. We do all our tax prep in-house. The way we look at things is a little bit different than a typical law firm. We look at your tax return as your first legal claim. That's really like making the complaint. That's making your legal argument. And if your attorneys don't know that inside and out, it's really hard to be an effective advocate. And something just came up this week. I was reviewing, a client came for a second opinion on a case, and he hired this attorney who is well-regarded, ex-IRS, well-regarded, well-known, and someone probably smarter than I am. And I was looking at the documents he gave me, and I could see that the attorney didn't prepare the return because this law firm is like the traditional law firm that, sort of farms it out. And the client hired the tax preparer that was close to him. And I was looking at the audit report, and I could see the IRS revenue agent made all these adjustments in favor of the taxpayer.
Ooh.
That is, the tax returns were wrong, but they were wrong against the taxpayer. And when I saw that, I could sort of figure out what was going on in this attorney's mind. He was probably very angry. He was probably very angry because the firm he was at wasn't giving him the tools to win.
Yes.
Because this is just such a terrible negotiating position when the IRS is doing you favors, and you want to come in a little bit stronger than that. So that is one of the critical differences between us and pretty much everyone else out there, is that we do everything in-house. And this is really why, it took us a while to grow to the size that we are, because I never wanted to grow faster than our tax prep department could. Because when I started, we were outsourcing stuff.
And finding errors.
It was finding errors, and we would end up doing so much work trying to correct it, where I said, it's going to make so much better. We can have a strategic advantage for our clients if we do it in-house. And we also put a lot of investments into our technology.
Yes.
That we really have some great systems that we've put here. We want to simplify things as much as we can, but we want to make them secure, and we want to keep the client updated. And also, one of the things is that we purchase the best tax preparation software available. A lot of places don't want to spend the money on this, but we think it's an incredible bargain. It's Pro Systems FX Tax by CCH. So far by the best. So far, this actually has, for the complicated returns, it actually has the forms. Other ones don't have the forms, so you have to go out, okay, do this part of the return. Now you have to go to irs.gov, download one of their forms, and start putting things in manually. So, talk about a place for errors. This is needless work that you're doing, and it's not doing calculations for some of the foreign things. And so this is where you start seeing the errors when you're looking at other people's work. it's just a really horrible way to do it. And in my mind, I think just doing the work for one client, the cost of this tax software pays for itself. So I can't believe that people who are doing high-end tax resolution would use anything else but Pro Systems FX. And I'm not paid, by the way, to tell you this.
There's no endorsement.
Right. If they want to pay me, I'll take it. I'll take the check. But it is really an outstanding system.
And it's just, I think the in-house feeling is awesome. Having CPAs, enrolled agents here, if we have a question, we literally go knock on their door. Right. If they're not in-house, you're waiting, especially if it's tax season, to get answers. Now, let me lump together a bunch of questions because they all sort of have the same answer. How much money can you save me? Approximately how much will my settlement be? How long will it take to resolve my case? Can I just pay what I originally owed? Can you lower my penalties? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So this is always the greatest. Who doesn't want to know these answers, right? We all want to know these. We all want certainty so we can plan around things. We don't want surprises. We want to get an idea. Well, this is the perfect attorney answer here. It depends, right? The IRS is difficult to control. They don't follow its own rules. The tax code itself is so complicated that you're going to get various opinions on things. And so it might even matter, well, what's your risk profile? Here, we see some arguments for taking this position. We see some arguments against it. So that's one thing that we want to know. The IRS can't communicate with themselves. They can't. If you call them to say, hey, this department said you're doing this, can you help me out? No, they can't. They really can't. And so it's very difficult for them to get things done. And then people are always out training. I mean, and I think also, one of the reasons why you're working at the IRS is the federal benefits of, I think you end up with 4 weeks of vacation.
Yes.
And then they probably do about 4 weeks of training. And so they're not there a lot of the time.
Right. We can't predict how the IRS is going to act. It's really literally a case-by-case basis.
That's right.
But this is also where our flat fee is good because, again, we're not creating additional
It gives people,
work.
Our incentive is that, we're on the same page as our client. We want this case done as effectively as possible.
The first time.
We don't want to, if we make a mistake, well, now we have to do extra to undo our mistake, and also because we warranty and guarantee our work. So that's, I think, that's a benefit for the client. The client knows we're on the same page as them.
Okay. Will the IRS remove penalties and interest?
They might remove penalties.
Okay.
But they will not remove interest, except that they'll remove interest on penalties that have been abated. And also, if your balance goes down, that interest that was running on that balance is removed too. So this is where, and especially where if you had your tax returns prepared on somebody who is using a cheaper system, it might make sense to look to see amend those returns to see if there is an error in your favor, because now if your assessment's brought down, the interest is brought down, and actually the penalties, even if they're not abated, those penalties are typically brought down because those are based on your outstanding balance.
I love when we get those cases. Okay, so last but not least, will the IRS assume I'm guilty if I hire an attorney?
This was from one of our attorneys, Bob Lyon, and he really explained it really well.
Robert Hansen.
Was Robert who said it?
Yep.
Oh, geez, I'm giving the wrong guy. That's just like me. So there are 3 types of IRS employees. You find the good guys, the guys who go by the book, and then the guys who act sort of crappy. They're kind of bad guys. So if you hire an attorney, the good guys will be the good guys. They're good guys. That's what they do. If you go by the guy who's by the book, and did you get publication 1? Do you understand it? They're okay. You are the taxpayer's representative. Doesn't matter to them.
Right.
And if you have the person who is the bad actor, well, they know they can't take advantage of you now. They know you have someone who's going to be watching them. One of the things that I hear a lot is an IRS revenue agent, revenue officer give me a call, and they'll say, "Oh, thank goodness you're on the case." And this is usually the employee with the heart of gold, right? Because even the employee with the heart of gold really can't act in your favor, because this is what they tell me. They're like, "Thank God this taxpayer hired you. I'm so glad they did. I know they're taking it serious now, and I was afraid this is what I have to do to them. And I'm trying to hint to them, I want to get legal representation because I can't tell them." The position of if we don't hear otherwise, if we don't see the correct objection from the taxpayer, I'm going to have to basically screw the guy, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm so happy that he has a legal advocate, because there's a better, more fair result, but I can't tell them what that is. So that's something that does happen quite a bit. And I would say hiring legal representation for the IRS doesn't make you look guilty. It means you take the IRS's power seriously. And that means you are vested in ending the case, which is what the IRS really wants to see. One of the ways to assure the worst result is not to take the IRS seriously.
Right. So if you do have a tax problem, it's time to take the bull by the horns. Don't be afraid anymore. Contact us even for advice, just to get an idea of what you should do. If we feel that you don't need to hire legal representation, it's not our job to scare you into it or try to trick anyone. We'll be upfront with you. So you can call us at 888-727-8796. You can email us info@irsmedic.com. If you want more information about the firm first, you can visit irsmedic.com. Lots of great information on there. Thanks so much for watching. IRSMedic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP. Real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.